Romeo and Juliet Chapter 2, Dream Sequence 1 at Chameleon Junior High School, Episode 1, 02 February 2021. English literature class was a repeat of PE in terms of Barbie doll Oster. Because of our non-stop chattering, Mr. Dunn had assigned his seats alphabetically. My assigned seat was behind Barbie dolls. The teacher was in the process of returning our essays. He said, "These essays, your essays, have demonstrated your lack of appreciation for, and your lack of understanding of, famous literary works." Stopping at Barbie doll's desk, Mr. Dunn handed her the essay she had turned in. She had earned a plus. He gave me mine, and I had earned a minus, which meant I was behind her yet again. At the front of the room, our teacher said, "We have 5 pluses and 7 minuses. Can I get one of the 5 plus essayists to share his or her thoughts with the class?" Barbie doll's hand couldn't have gone up fast enough. That girl loved attention and special treatment. Mr. Dunn faced the class. He stood in front of his desk with his arms folded. "Barbie doll Oster," he said, accepting her as a volunteer. "First, tell the class of the question you chose and why you chose it, then read your essay, followed by class discussion." She rushed to the front and stood before the class. She also loved being seen. Mr. Dunn went and stood against a window. He didn't want to take the spotlight away from one of his students. Loud and at moderate speed, he mandated. The 2 essay questions were as follows. 1 was Romeo and Juliet's suicide fate or self-inflicted destiny. 2. What prevented Romeo and Juliet from getting married? Barbie doll started, "Class, thanks for your love and support." She was acting childish. Her joyful expression was obviously disingenuous. Most of us 7th grade girls knew that Barbie doll was inclined to putting on dog and pony shows to get attention. Remember, class, love me because I'm beautiful. It is my fate that I'm beautiful. And it is my fate that everyone loves me. Whenever Barbie doll opened her mouth, I wanted to puke. I was convinced that no other 7th grade girl in the entire United States was more self-centered, egotistical, or narcissistic than she was. Mr. Dunn asked her to stop it with the jesting and to start. Barbie doll was clothed in designer jeans, grayish boots, and a white t-shirt with pink leather jacket. Her hairdo was nicely done, woven at the top and then straight toward the back, at the middle of her neck. I, Barbie doll B. Oster, chose essay question 1. I honestly believed that the die had already been cast as to the characters' lives and that their lives were fixed and predetermined according to their lot. She paused for a moment. She eyed us, her fellow classmates, then our teacher. There was no right or wrong answer. No one cared enough to support or dispute her claim. No one cared about her opinion, and no one attempted to speak on William Shakespeare's behalf. Barbie doll readied herself, then started to read. William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is a tale of love intertwined with hostility, that ended with senseless suicide deriving from incompetence at the highest level. The messenger missed his delivery, the mad scientist sold bad medicine to an adolescent, and there was unending bad blood between the 2 wealthy families. These 3 essential elements will prove that a person's life adventures or misadventures are predetermined and unchangeable. Was it plain laziness or was it fate that Friar Lawrence didn't deliver the message to Romeo himself? If he had, then the story would have turned out differently since he conjured up the whole deception. 2 young lives could have been spared. Could any other monk besides the incompetent Friar John do the legwork? Hopefully, there were other monks around besides Lawrence and John, which I have no doubt there were. Had Friar Lawrence chosen any other monk besides Friar John, then more than likely, the message would have been delivered and the 2 lives spared. I honestly believe that fate guided the actions of the 2 monks. They could have said no at many junctures, but they chose not to since fate dictated their every move. Had Romeo been born in a different country or to a poor peasant family, then I would concede that fate played no role in Romeo and Juliet's suicide. Also, fate guided their births. It was no coincidence that Juliet was a beautiful teen girl and Romeo was a handsome teen guy. The equations works. A beautiful woman and a handsome man make beautiful offspring. Clearly, indubitably, fate steered these 2 wealthy families and their 2 children to tragic end. It was no mistake that there was lawlessness in the pharmaceutical industry and a lack of FDA oversight. Any elementary school child could walk into a drugstore and buy whatever drugs were available. Had there been protocol in terms of ID verification, Romeo wouldn't have been able to buy the poison. Fate dictated the permissive approach toward acquiring drugs and medications during that epoch. The lack of oversight, the deviousness of the drug companies, and the lack of accountability from those who sold the drugs were all predestined, fixed, with the dice already rolled. Their lots were determined. It was fate. The bloody feud and the endless drama between the 2 wealthy families was also fixed by fate, and it just so happened their children loved each other. It wouldn't have been fate had Romeo loved a random peasant girl, and the same is true for Juliet. It wasn't happenstance that Romeo and Juliet were both wealthy. Had one of the families been poor, then the equation wouldn't have worked. It would be happenstance, a fluke, a quirk, an accident. For an equation to work, preset numbers are needed. Likewise, fate dictated the lives of Romeo and Juliet since the series of adventures or misadventures balanced the equation, which only fate is able to do. Lastly, a random number does not work mathematically. 1 plus 1 equals 2, but 1 plus a random number, say, 7, does not equal 2. Our adventures or misadventures in life are predetermined. They're fated. These 3 sequential occurrences evolved methodically and led to a tragic end for the 2 young lovers. The feud started well before Romeo and Juliet were born, not after. They weren't too far apart in age, and they were both heterosexuals. All these events weren't random. They didn't evolve accidentally, and they weren't merely probabilities. Fate determined their lot in life. Fate had decreed that all these events would transpire, ending in Romeo and Juliet's suicide. My essay ends with this: I am beautiful because fate ordained it to be so, and I am the best candidate to play Juliet. Barbie doll finished. Mr. Dunn gazed blankly at her. Surely, I thought, he must have some questions or feedback since he's the one who graded her paper. The class was silent itself. No one cared about Barbie doll enough to prove or disprove her silly notions.